Good morning, lovely friends. It's Heather at Bush Puppy Farm. I hope you are doing well. We're out here on the farm this morning early in advance of a week-long heat wave to do some string trimming, and then I'll give you a little short tour of what's going on the farm. Not a whole lot right now other than rodents. And then we'll see what else is on tap for the day. We're heading into a week to 10 days of very hot temperatures. This is not abnormal for us. We're going to be in the upper 90s Fahrenheit to the low 100s Fahrenheit. Again, not abnormal for July for us. But it always makes us think more about fire season, which we are in now. And there have already been about 47,000 acres burned in California this year, which is much higher. It's almost double what it usually is this time of year. And so it makes everybody a little anxious. So with my string trimming this morning, and this is going to sound crazy, but I'm going to be bringing a watering can full of water around with me to the various areas that I'm trimming. It is not unusual for people to spark a small fire with string trimming or other types of yard work. I don't know how that happens. It's a friction thing. I'm sure there's physics involved. But we are breezy today. And so that little spark can set off a fire that very quickly spreads. And, there's dry grass everywhere here. So I'm going to basically just carry this water bucket around with me just in case to the various segments that I'm doing. And that way, if something happens, I can put it out immediately. Hopefully not, because that would be pretty terrifying. But just a couple years ago, in June, a guy was string trimming his backyard. This is right around the corner up here. And I don't know how it happened, but a spark got set off and the entire hillside went up in a matter of 15 minutes. They did get the whole thing out, but it burned a number of acres before they were able to get it out. So I don't want to be that person. And I learned from that lesson just from viewing it. So, okay, let me get started string trimming and then I'll give you a short tour. Like I said, we are still struggling mightily with rodents. When I first started setting out the mouse traps for the voles, I did catch quite a few, but since then it's gone dry. The gophers are back, and so our zinnias are just decimated. I have very few plants left. The ones that are left are little sticks up until if they were lucky enough to be taller than the voles can reach, then they do have some greenery at the top, but it's bad. I don't think I'm going to have much of a zinnia harvest this year. And they're starting to invade the mums. And so, so I'm stressed. I've been basically coming out every day, moving traps around, trying to catch more things, and it's just not happening. I haven't been catching anything. So that's stressing me out. And it happens at night. So all I can do is set lots of traps and hope that I get lucky. Okay. I'm going to put on an audiobook and listen and string trim right now while it's cool. And then we'll do a little garden tour. Okay, I ran out of string on the trimmer and I'm out of water to drink. So I'm going to call it today for the work, but I am going to give you a quick tour. It is getting hot quickly. So let's go through. Not a whole lot to see. Okay, so I'm calling this area here the upper beds only because it's closest to the gate that enters the property. These are the upper beds, those are the lower beds way back there. That just helps in my head come up with the way to identify location. So as you can see, we got lots of wood chips down. The feverfew the second round is okay. I mean, it's not doing great, but it's okay, and it will eventually bloom. Strawflower is done. Done. I mean, it's still, putting out some stems, but it's done. So all of this needs to come out. And you can see the bed now is super narrow. So when we redo the beds, I'll have to pull the wood chips back on both sides, get the bed back to its normal width. I got to weed all this before we can do that. So everything's going to come out except for that section of feverfew back there, and the status. So these status are going to stay because I can keep harvesting on them. So I'm going to, and it is okay because in this area, this bed, I have like smaller groupings of things that are going to go in. Marigolds and sunflowers and amaranth, which God knows is going to do anything for me. It never does. And now that we have this massive pest problem out here, that is the biggest thing that's preventing me from turning these beds over right now. The zinnias that I've restarted, they're not quite ready to go out, but soon. But I'm worried about putting them out because, ouch, hang on, I've got a thistle on my leg. Hang on. Okay, but as soon as I put things out, they get eaten. And I've been trying to come up with a kind of cage idea I don't know, this is so ridiculous, you guys. It's ridiculous. So I feel stressed because I have got seedlings in the greenhouse and soon they can come out, but how many of them are actually going to survive? So yeah, I'll keep the status, and the feverfew down there, but everything else in this bed will come out. We will amend the bed, get it back to its normal width proportions, and then put in, the marigolds and some of the amaranth. And this bed also is going to get turned over, except for this little section of Orlea right here, because it's just starting to produce. This is all Cynoglossum, firmament. It's done. It's way done. So that'll all come out. All the snapdragons will come out, and then we'll have this bed is going to be all sunflowers. This bed is the Cynoglossum mystery rose, and it has not obviously started blooming yet, but it is doing well. And I have weeds in here, so I do need to come through with the hoe. That's tomorrow's job, in addition to more string trimming, and pop these weeds out. But you can see all these plants that were here eaten. And it is so frustrating. And there's a big run right here that I keep putting traps in, but nobody is triggering the traps. So yeah, these couple zinnias, God knows if they'll survive. And I'll show you what I mean when we go to the lower beds in a minute. I had planted this whole row and there's nothing left. It's devastating. I still have 2 rows that I could uncover, but I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to flip these and put sunflowers in them for the rest of the season. Leave these 2 rows covered until October, when I can then amend them and plant. Because there's nothing growing in them right now, that means there's nothing living under there and eating. So yeah, I'm just trying to keep habitat. So here's part of the problem. In everything that I read, heavy mulch and thick weeds obviously provides shelter and cover for rodents. But if I don't heavily mulch the paths, then I have heavy weeds. Both are cover for the rodents. So I really don't know what my options are at this point. Okay, so moving on. Do you see lots of lizards, which I love? Okay, so the agrostemma, it's pretty much done. I haven't been harvesting on it. This is the last year I'm growing it. I love it. It's lovely. I will still pop these in the home garden and also in my cottage garden, but I'm not growing them for harvest anymore. I've narrowed down my crop list, and these guys just didn't make the cut. Okay, so Black Knight Scabiosa. The stems are finally starting to get a little bit longer, thank goodness, because they were super short, unusable. Here's the millet. Look at this, so beautiful. It's the coolest thing and really big, so it's not great for like, small bouquets or even market bouquets, but I can sell this wholesale. And this is the purple Majesty millet. I love both of them. These 2 did make the crop list for next year. So next year there will be a whole bed, well, I think it's about a half a bed of millet, multiple successions, because you see they all come up at the same time, so that I can sell wholesale. Craspedia did not make the cut. I love it. It's cute, but not a high cash crop. Sweet Annie, like I said, this is just such a prolific plant. It produces amazing greenery, foliage for bouquets, and I will continue to grow this. You can see you only need a couple of a couple of plants. This is like 2 plants here. And it's not quite ready to harvest yet. Like, I have harvested it at this stage and I do like it. I actually love it, but it tends to get really floppy very quickly and it's really hard to hydrate. Once it sets its little flower buds, then it stays hydrated much better. So that's what I'll be doing this year, and I'll sell those wholesale for the most part. Apple of Peru, really cool, but no bites from the floristry industry, and they're hard to mix into market bouquets, which is mostly what I do. So that didn't make the cut either. Okay, Cosmos, I keep deadheading these. They're too short for most things, but it's nice to have them here. This is chocolate lace flower, Dara. It is a umbellifer, as you can see, and you can see the just gorgeous color. There's a little spider on that one. So these I will always grow. I love this plant, and it produces tons of stems, as you can see, and it's great in bouquets as well as wholesale. Tiny little bit of Orlea survived after I planted this whole area. Tweedia, unless it really impresses me the rest of the season, I'm never growing this again. Look how short that is. That's completely useless. Mountain mint, first time I've ever gotten one to grow for me. This is a euphorbia, which is great. It's really cool, but euphorbias are very hard to put in bouquets. I mean, you could do it, but it's extra work because they have a sap, just like with daffodils, that will kill everything in the vase until that sap heals over. And so you have to harvest them separately and let them cure. And then if you recut the stems, you get it. So I don't know, too much fiddly for me. So it's very pretty. I might plant that around here because it is, it can be a perennial here. I might plant that around, but not going to use it for bouquets. Let's see, what else do we have? The basil has just been kind of decimated. I can't keep things away from it. I'm not going to probably get any basil for greenery this year, which really stinks because it's one of my favorites. Celosia is blooming, and you can see all these empty holes used to have plants in them. Plants that got eaten by voles or gophers. Okay, so Lisianthus. Starting to get a little bit taller, but most of these stems have been very, very short. I did put some on consignment last week, but I have no idea if they even sold because they were so short. Last week, I used these as short stems in a mason jar arrangement for my CSA, and they seem to love it, so I might just keep doing that. At least I'll be getting use out of them. This is the light, I think it's called Misty Pink color. I also have a yellow and a deep rose in here. I can hear the little lizards. Look, they're so fast. So yeah, here's a Misty Pink. All right, and then this is Bachelor Button, the Bride, and this is the first time I've grown it. It was in that wedding collection thing. Really cool flowers. Very different for a cornflower. I actually really like it. But again, not super long stems. We'll see as the season goes on. And again, a lot of these were eaten. As you can see, all the empty holes where we had plants and then they got taken. And the bees really enjoy them too. Yeah, in general, I feel like there's a lot of loss this season. This is Scabiosa Salmon Queen, I think it's called. And it looks like this one actually will bloom a little bit taller. So that's good. It's getting close. It's not blooming yet. Okay, lower bed area. This is where the most destruction has occurred recently. And you can see I have not string trimmed here yet. This is because I ran out of string. Dahlias. So the ones that did survive the eating are starting to put on buds. All of these got pinched, and so they should give me plenty of stems. Now I do have a few here that look like they're trying to come back, but whether they'll actually be able to put on enough growth to bloom before the end of the season is pretty doubtful. So yeah, I have not seen, oh, there's a new one. You see that? That is a fresh hole, so I'm going to put a trap right there. Because I did the original hole that something got in was over here, and I caught that vole, buried it in that hole. So I need to go get another trap and stick it over there before we're done. You can see this whole area needs to be string trimmed. The sweet peas, I've just let go to seed, which is fine. I'll save their seed. This, basically, I'm not worried about this trellis. it's going to do what it's going to do for now. I'm not putting anything new on it for the rest of the season. And then back here is just all weeds. So lots of work to do on this, but I'm not as concerned with this stuff right now. So sunflowers, we still have more Sunflower Steve Van Gogh Fantasy Mix, but they are not ready yet. So I didn't list any this week. None of them are real close to harvest. These are the mums. And I do see some empty holes in here, which is where they've been taken. Now there's still a lot, but I mean, I'm stressed because this is a high value cash crop. These are decorative mums, and I'm losing them. And I keep setting traps, as you can see, and I keep not catching anything. So very frustrating. This is even worse. So this whole bed was zinnias. Look at all the holes. That is empty. There's no plants there anymore. Where there are plants, they have been just decimated on the foliage. So, you know, there's enough leaves, I think, on these to continue to photosynthesize. But I gotta tell you guys, I basically am not gonna have zinnias this year. Like I said, I have another succession that I'm gonna put in, but it's probably just gonna get eaten. And I have yet to come up with a way to cage them off. I mean, I can put it in a raised bed. I guess I can really quickly build these. That's probably what I should do. Thanks for letting me mentally brainstorm here. So this bed of Bells of Ireland and this bed of dahlias, they're just soil on the ground. And you can see there's holes everywhere because voles have been in here. Apparently voles are not fans of Bells of Ireland. Good to know, because I'm going to keep growing those. So pest management out here might come down to what things have to be in cages, basically raised beds with hardware cloth underneath, and what things can grow in the field. So yeah, it's good to know that they don't seem to like those. They do like Bupleurum, because I had Bupleurum in the back and it got decimated. And they also really like dahlias, as you can imagine. So all these holes in here. So I think what I'll do, since there's probably 2 dahlias in here that will ever produce, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to cut my losses. I think I will have the kids help me make 2 4x6 raised beds, which I was going to do by like October. Actually, we'll do 3. Put another one here. And they will be just like this one. 4x6, lined with hardware cloth. And you can see they've been trying. They're trying to dig under there, but they can't squeeze through that hardware cloth. It's just too small. So that's the only way to protect what's in here. And the lilies, like these, are blooming on, you know, in the bed because I don't have a market for them. So again, did not make the cut. Not growing lilies anymore. The only kind, so I spoke with the intake specialist for the florist, the wholesaler that I sell to, and they said the only ones that are really selling at this point are the Martagon lilies. And that's also still a very specialty market. That's not like a CSA flower or anything like that. So no more lilies. I'm not growing them again. I like them, but they are big and they're hard to put into bouquets. And the bigger thing is, so many of us have pets, cats especially, and the pollen is toxic. Even if the cat rubs up against the plant, gets that pollen on their fur, and they lick it, it's toxic. If that pollen falls on the table underneath where the lilies are, and the cat steps in it or rolls in it and licks it, it's toxic. So I think it's just better to not grow these anymore. And I won't miss them. I'll just have the bed space. So I think moving forward, now that I'm going through here, while the sunflowers are small, they are vulnerable. But when they get bigger, nothing seems to bother them. And the weeds don't like them. So I'm thinking for raised beds, we'll do sunflowers. I'll just have to start making a list of all the things I've noticed this year that get attacked. Ranunculus clearly are an issue because the gophers loved those last year. But I have so many of those, there's no way I can grow those in a raised bed. I have to put those in the ground. So I'll just have to be very, very vigilant with gopher traps. And once I got the hang of setting the gopher traps, when the ground was soft during the rainy season, I caught them daily. And so I think if I can keep doing that, then we'll be okay. But it'll have to be an everyday thing, come out and check. And these beds down here, the lower beds, will not be planted until spring. So because I don't need this space until spring. Now these beds, when I build the 4x6s, these will all be tulips. That's the plan. And they will be perfectly protected because they basically will be sealed top and bottom, because what I'm going to do is, you know, all the beds have the hardware cloth underneath, and then I'm going to put a topping of hardware cloth so that nobody can come in and dig down to get at the tulip bulbs. So they'll be protected all winter, and they'll do great. They actually really enjoy growing in the field. They grow better for me in the field than they grew in a high tunnel. They were real short in a high tunnel. So yeah, so they'll be in those beds, and then, you know, they'll be done the end of March, and I can flip that and start putting things like zinnias and celosia and other things that the animals really love. And I can focus on doing multiple successions of sunflowers in these beds. So I think after walking through with you guys, thank you for following along and in my jumbled brain, that gives me some ideas on how I can kind of battle this next year, because this is not tenable. This is a massive crop loss, and it's a lot of money down the drain. It's a lot of money lost because there's sales I cannot make, and I can't recoup the money I spent to put them all in. So yeah, frustrating, but that's farming, and I just have to suck it up. I really, really hope that the rest of the mums survive for harvest, because when they start producing, they put so many blooms on, and they're so gorgeous. And at that time of year, September, October, the wholesalers are desperate for local flowers. So it's really, really important for me to have this crop. So again, I'll just be coming out every day, placing traps where I can and hoping that I can catch things. But as you can see, I really need to get in here tomorrow and string trim all this, because while that's not impacting anything that I'm growing right now, all this will, when it goes to seed, that seed flies around. They're like, no, sorry. We have horse flies out here. I didn't have to deal with horse flies before. Okay, and I'm being bitten. When I lived in Florida, that was a common thing, but they haven't been a thing out here. But they are now, and they really hurt when they bite. Okay, so as I was saying, hopefully it stayed down there, the fluff from these is the seed pods. They fly everywhere, and so that will, all right, it's still biting me. I had to escape to the car. It kept biting me on my back. And then it followed me into the car. Thankfully, it went to the window and I was able to chew it out. As I was saying, those dandelion looking things do just like a dandelion. They, you know, puff open, and then all of those seeds get wind dispersed. And so that will go all over my beds, and I'll just have to deal with that again next year. So it's important to cut down as much of the, you know, weeds as possible before they set seed, because that just adds to your problem the following year. So I still need to go back and put a trap out. Oh, I do have a shirt I can put on over. At least I can protect my skin. I need to go back and put a trap out in where we just saw that in the dahlia bed, and I need to get some equipment that I left in the field. So I'm gonna have to go back and brave the the horseflies. That totally reminds me when I was a kid and growing up in Florida. We had horseflies and deer flies. That actually looked more like a deer fly, but they would come around us while we were swimming and try to get bite your head. And so we'd all hold our breath and dunk underwater until they went away. But of course, you can only do that so long. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up the video for today. I know there's a lot of just rambling and talking. It's probably not very exciting, but I appreciate you guys being my sounding board so I can come up with a plan for next year. And actually, that makes me feel a little bit better, because I have taken note of things that the animals choose over others, right? So definitely dahlias, tulips, any bulbing type of lilies, any kind of bulbing tuberous type of plant they love, because there's lots of nutrition and calories in those bulbs. And so it's a really good source for them. So I want to exclude those plants, obviously. Ranunculus are, they're a fancy buttercup. So the ranunculus are a wild Native American flower. The native version is just like a wildflower you would see out in the fields in a prairie. We've bred them to be fancy and all that, but they are a food source for wildlife. I mean, that's just the way it is. So I will just have to do my due diligence and be, I have 6 gopher hawk traps, and I'll just have to pepper the place. And the good thing is it'll only be 2 beds. I think I have 2 beds worth of ranunculus. And so, I can just keep moving those traps around and following the tunnels. And like I said, I got really good when the soil was soft and I could actually get the traps in the ground at catching them then. So I will rely on that. And then other things that I fall plant. So fall planting, we have ranunculus, tulips, daffodils, narcissus, which nothing eats, not even deer. But those are at home for the most part. However, all those ones that I pulled up that I put when I put in the native garden, I think I'll put them out here. Can't hurt. That means they'll be here forever, but it'll be beautiful and I can harvest on them. So, and nothing will bother them. I don't have to worry about that. Status is another one that's going in. Straw flower. These are all things I plant in the fall for spring harvest. Feverfew, which I know, so the status gets eaten by birds. Nothing else really touches it. So I need to the status when it's young. So when they're just little tiny rosettes, they get completely defoliated by birds. So I can protect for that by covering them. Feverfew, most all of those got destroyed by the gophers. So I need to, have a protection system in place for them, probably just more gopher traps, because the entire plant was pulled underground. So obviously gophers. See what else is going in the ground in the fall. There's probably other things that I use for greenery, and I can't think off the top of my head, but I think I know the ones when I go through my list that the animals will like, and I'll find ways to protect them. And if I have to start building more enclosed raised beds, I can do that. It's just that, first of all, it's a lot of materials. But, I don't want to build huge 40, I'm not going to build huge 40-foot long beds. Like, that's just not going to happen. So it's going to change what I grow, the quantities and stuff like that. But, it is what it is. We have to make efforts to change things up to make it work so that we don't lose money. So, yeah. All right. I think I have a plan. For today, I'm going to put my string trimming shirt back on to protect my skin and go out there real quick and set that trap in the dahlia bed and then grab my equipment and hope I don't get bit again by a deer fly or horsefly. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today, you guys. Hopefully I'll have another video for you in the next couple days. We'll see. Things are complete chaos at my house, so it's tough to shoot things, but we'll do the best we can. I hope you have a wonderful weekend and a wonderful time in your garden, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.